Welcome, everyone, from around the world to the Buyer Persona podcast. My name is Tony Zambito, and I'm excited to be here today to talk to you about the great buyer resignation. I want to be able to provide you with 9 insights from buyer interviews that will indicate why buyers are walking with their feet and they're walking away from sellers. So I hopefully you will find the information helpful and can make you realize what the reality of the world is out there in the whole seller buyer relationship. So let's get started. First thing I want to talk to you about is that buyers have had it with obnoxiousness. And many of you know that today you cannot visit a website without getting a gazillion pop-ups for chat boxes and fill in this and do that. Compound that with the persistent calls, the persistent voicemails. If you want to download a document that you find that you might have use for it, buyers today are thinking 2 or 3 times before they even put any information in because they know what's about to happen. So this obnoxiousness level has reached a really critical state, and I don't believe that sellers realize what is happening, and buyers are just saying they've had it, they've had enough. So let's move on to the next one. To buyers, when all this is going on, they're thinking in their head, there's no understanding. The sellers that are coming at me today do not have any understanding of my goals, what my problems are, my issues, what we're faced with. So, all this obnoxiousness and this inability to connect just demonstrate this little understanding more and more to buyers today. The third thing I want to talk about is this increased capabilities that buyers have today, basically just to turn off communication. All of us in the pandemic have acquired new tools, new digital tools, new ways to communicate digitally. Well, buyers have too. And the convenience for them just to turn off the noise is very easy to do today. And it's just making it much more harder to connect with buyers. Self-sourcing is a lot easier. Buyers today can source the information they need, the specifications they need. They can contact peers by texting, even. They can do a number of different things that is frictionless, that does not require any sales rep, that requires no intervention on the part of the seller. So buyers desire this. They want this. It's not always possible in every situation, but it's an aim. And they're aiming for a way to do things to self source without any intervention whatsoever. Procurement. If you haven't been paying attention to what's been going on in procurement these days, you should, particularly since prior to the pandemic. It's been going through a transformation. And that transformation has included increased technological capabilities, streamlined services, a bigger seat at the table as they relate to costs and expenses. For many sellers, they've always viewed procurement as a wall, a barrier, something they have to put up with, a hurdle to climb. And you know what? Procurement as a buyer knows this. So if you've been looking at procurement in that way, it's really time to start looking at procurement as a partner and a critical cog in the wheel that has to be addressed. There's been a tremendous amount of turnover, both on the seller side and on the buyer side. This turnover, if you will, has meant that relationships that we're counting on in the past are no longer there. It means that the way business got done before are no longer present. So recognize that for both on the seller side and the buyer side, there's going to be a new way of relating, a new way of connecting, and new expectation. So this is something that sellers have to recognize, that many of the conversations and the communications that existed in the past are not going to be there anymore. A lot of things that are going on present themselves as evident to the buyer that sellers have not adapted well to the pandemic. So if you're doing some of the things that I just talked about, and this obnoxiousness level is at a state of frenzy, it is further evidence to the buyer that, number one, you haven't adapted well to the pandemic. And number two, we don't think you're going to adapt to what's going on in our organization either. So the noise level is a indicator to them that your ability to adapt is not strong, and therefore would not be a good thing for their organization. Murky brand perception. In my buyer interviews, this is something I hear a lot. They don't know what you stand for. They can't tell what vision you're offering and how does it fit into their world. So the brand perception today is very critical. And if it's murky, it's not clear, buyers have this increased capability to just walk away. And lastly, the pandemic has made loyalty a thing of the past. As I mentioned, there's several reasons of buyer and seller relationships are gone. People have left. Technology has changed. So the whole concept of loyalty has been totally eradicated, if you will. So this is something really critical to take into consideration. So there you have it. There's 9 reasons why buyers are walking with their feet. Please visit my website at tonyzambito.com. You'll be able to find that particular article, The Great Buyer Resignation, and the Buyer Persona blog. And also, you'll be able to find that on the Buyer Persona newsletter on LinkedIn as well. So until the next time, I hope you have a great day.